Hilary, welcome to the Studio Class podcast. I am so thrilled to have you as a Masterclass guest. Will you please just kick us off and tell us a little bit more about you?
Oh, thank you so much, Megan. I am really excited that you asked me to be on your podcast. I am a fellow mezzo soprano. Shout out. um, I am pretty much like a tried and true opera singer. I've wanted to do it since I was 12 years old. I've just been chasing that dream and pounding the pavement for as long as I can remember and kind of don't know what else to do. Lived in New York for about 10 years after I went to school in Mississippi and Cincinnati. And now I live in Denver and I'm, still singing, working, doing the hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. I read as we were kind of getting ready for this, I was reading about the fact that you just booked, well, probably just booked, recently booked a performance in Colorado, so you're feeling a little bit more like welcomed into your musical home there. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, moving to Colorado during the pandemic, it was more of a forced leave from New
Yeah.
York City because my husband and I had been sharing a tiny, like 380 square foot studio apartment
Oh my
for 8 years.
goodness. Oh my gosh.
And it
That's a
worked,
strong relationship, Hilary.
man. Well, it worked because we had opposite work schedules during the week and we didn't really ever see each other other than sleeping, except for on Saturday and Sunday. So we like really made it work. And when you're in New York, you're out most of the time anyway. Um, but we were kind of forced to move just because New York was not the place to be during the pandemic. I was working from home. There was no desk, there was no table, there was no space.
Right,
So
right.
I had sung a couple of festivals in Colorado before, and we had decided that, hey, this could be the next place that we decide to live, spend our next chapter, see what it's like out here. We've been East Coasters
Yeah,
or of the like, sort of Midwest-y for our whole lives, and we just thought, let's try something different that is just so breathtakingly beautiful.
absolutely.
So we moved out here, and because of the pandemic, also, it just took a while for me to feel like I had a community here after
Yeah.
being in New York for nearly 10 years. Um, I guess maybe I didn't realize what a family I had grown there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because New York is kind of the classical music hub of the country, there are just such a wealth of resources and performances and coaches and language coaches, and there's just everywhere.
Yeah.
And so coming to Colorado and being in a much smaller but still very vibrant classical musical community, um, I just had to kind of like reach out to people that I knew through the grapevine that were here, or have my managers try to set up auditions with the opera companies here. And
Yeah.
I sang for Upper Colorado, and I then went up to Central City Opera and sang an audition for them at the end of July. And kind of immediately felt like I had a connection with John Baril. We started talking about an opera, Joan of Arc, that we've both done, and
Yes.
we were excited about that. And they offered me a gig the next day, and
Wow.
it's for like 7 weeks next summer,
Excellent.
and I'm singing Emilia and Rossini's Otello,
Nice.
and it makes me feel just so welcome here. It made a huge difference in my feeling of really kind of putting down roots and feeling welcome in the community here and feeling seen and
Yeah.
valued as a musician in a brand new place.
Yes. I love that. I love what you said. And I'm hoping that, I just really want to dig into that for a second because I hear lots of younger musicians or people that are transitioning into different geographic spaces, right? They're thinking about how do I get more connected in a community? And because you just talked about this, I was wondering if you could kind of isolate a couple of things that you felt like you did proactively when you moved to just even like what was the little action that you did that you felt like, oh, I did a thing and it helped me feel more connected or it helped me become more established in this professional creative community?
I thank you for asking that because it was really like a conscious effort.
Yeah.
Um, in New York, I have a coach who I've worked with almost exclusively since 2016.
Would you like to shout them out? Because, or you're like, I got to keep it secret.
His name is Doug Hahn, and he's
Yes.
just wonderful. He's fluent in Italian and French, and he's brilliant. And we hit it off a long time ago. And he gets me, and he knows how to unlock a lot of things in
Yeah.
me and how to get me to maximum capacity. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So that's been really difficult to be away from that relationship. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to reach out to anybody I know in the area to see if they know of a really good coach that I could meet up with, that I could just start working through some of this music with, that I have coming up, or even, just start establishing a relationship with once we can do in-person coachings.
Yeah.
Um, and it just so happened that a friend of mine, Javi Abreu, a beautiful tenor. I did a Barber of Seville with him in Florida Grand Opera in 2015. And so we've known each other for a while. Oh, we also did Wolf Trap in 2011 together.
Nice.
And so we had these little things
Yeah.
over the years that we knew each other, and the internet, social media. I feel like we're constantly connected with these people across the world.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to Javi and I said, Javi, I know that you live in the area. Whenever we can, I would love to see you and hang out. And he was like, oh my gosh, that'd be great. Also, I don't know if you're looking for a coach, but my husband is the head coach at CU Boulder.
What? Amazing.
His name is Jeremy Rieger, and he works with Opera Colorado a lot as well, and with Central City Opera as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, so eventually, I met Jeremy and we worked together, and it was just really nice to have a connection with somebody and to be able to just honestly just like nerd out.
Yeah.
When you're not surrounded by musicians all the time, you find yourself like really wanting to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh my gosh, I just need this time to talk to people.
Yeah.
And so he and I developed a relationship, and he ended up playing for both my Opera Colorado and my Central City audition. And
Fantastic.
he is on staff at Central City, so I'll see him there next summer.
Yeah.
And there are also like 3 or 4 other coaches that are on staff at Central City that I've worked with at other young artist programs over the years.
Yeah.
And just starting to just reach out to those connections I had, build those relationships. And then when I had a break in my schedule for a few months, I was like, gosh, like what am I going to do to make some income? Like maybe I could start teaching at like a music school somewhere. They've got like a local just music academy, not like an actual like university or school, like an after school program sort of music school. I interviewed there, got to know some really good musicians. My schedule for performing wasn't what they wanted, so I didn't get that job. But I had this conversation again with these people when I interviewed, and they were just lovely. And I was like, it's just really good to sit down and talk music, or just like talk technique for a second with you guys, just to be like, hey, I'm a musician in the community, and I also have this knowledge. I'm not in university anymore or anything, so I'm not ingrained in the CU scene. But there are professional musicians around here, and there's a flute player that lives down in Lone Tree who I've known for years, and I'm excited to meet up with her. Like, you just have to be like, okay, I have this huge network of people that I've been building for my entire professional career. Who do I know that's out here? Like, somebody almost everywhere, really, it ends up being. So then you can end up building relationship off that one person almost,
Right. Well, and a couple of things that I wanted to isolate that you said were just reaching out, being proactive about just finding, if you don't have their email or whatever, find it, reach out. And even if you're younger and you don't have this large professional network, you can still do this. You can still like introduce yourself to people that you see who are working in the field and say, I'd love to sing for you, or have coffee, or work together, or something like that.
Absolutely. And that's another reason why I do love social media. Like, it's that necessary evil. Because I often will develop relationships with other singers, whether they be younger singers who are like literally see themselves like, oh, like I saw you doing this trajectory 10 years ago and I really see myself on that path. Come into my DMs, let's talk. I love that. One of the things that I really love to do is if I'm ever at an opera company where there are young artists who are understudying me or whatever, I was that person for 10 years. I went through the young artist circuit probably for over 10 years, but that's another thing. No, it wasn't. No, it was
not.
It was 9. It was 9. But I love to just say like, hey, listen, there's no manual here. There are
Yeah.
so many learning curves. Like, I'm so happy to just like go out to dinner with you or hang out with you and talk,
Yes.
about my experience, or like things that were told to me maybe in conservatory that really turned out to be the opposite in the real world. Things
Right.
like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Well, this is why I do this podcast too, is just to have conversations with people who are currently working, and you feel like sometimes the information you might have gotten from a teacher isn't as current as it is right now. So I want to talk to people that are, figuring things out, their own path right now, and just saying like, well, what's it like for you? Tell us a little bit more, And the beautiful part about this is that people are really honest and open most of the time, and they're like, well, this is what I'm doing, and I kind of pursue it this way, and it works for me for these reasons. So so amazing. That's why I want you here, Hilary. So
Yeah.
I do have to ask you one of the first questions that I usually ask, and I'm going to probably come back to coaches and things like that, because all of that is such great information. But one of the things that I always ask is, what is an intention that you're keeping for yourself right now? This is something that it can be anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be music related or career related if that's not what you're feeling. But what's an intention that you're keeping for yourself?
Ooh, like something that I'm actively like trying to. Yes, okay, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
First thing that pops into my head is, and this doesn't just relate to music, everything in life, but it's something at 37 years old that I am starting to practice, is actively keeping my boundaries for my own mental health.
Oh, preach on it, honey. Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
because the because not only in my personal life, like it just bleeds over
yep.
in my professional life, like it can be a really ugly business.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a business where nobody's taking up for you but yourself. And when you can feel scared sometimes that taking up for yourself is going to have repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you just have to be like, you know what, no, I'm not going to be treated that way, or I'm not going to let this conversation be a part of my day.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
That to me is something that has helped me really kind of keep my blinders on,
Mm-hmm.
um, instead of getting lost in the I'm not good enoughs, or like the
Yeah.
imposter syndrome that we can all kind of get lost in by, instead of looking at our life and our own body of work, looking at everybody else's or what we don't have yet. Um, I just try to really keep my blinders on and protect my mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Do it, keep my and I guess maybe my intention at the bottom of that is doing it for the love of music's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of it, just taking the ego away. Like when it's just you at home with your piano and you're practicing, like where is the joy there? Are
Yeah.
you like, God, I love this? So for me, it's still there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's constantly what I hang on to, even if it's difficult or I'm figuring something out. Um, I try to still keep that joy there.
Absolutely. Hilary,
I don't
can
know if
you
that answered your question. That
it
answered your question.
100% answers my question. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm curious, if you can you describe what it feels like when you feel like that joy might be a little bit farther away and you want to bring it back? What does that moment start to feel like when you kind of feel like you're getting out of your lane?
Man, that happens often. Um, I think in that, to me, that feeling usually creeps in when someone who is not myself tries to tell me who or what I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I start to question like all of these things that I really feel like I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, 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 but that's not really who I am. I don't really know that you understand me.
Yeah.
I try to just go back to what I know I do well.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one opinion over here.
Yep.
That's it,
Yep.
like, and I've been told since I was a young singer, like, oh, like there's a lot of metal in your voice, and it sometimes that can like be a lot, or people might find it abrasive, but that can also be your calling card.
Right.
So I know it's not for everybody because it's subjective, it's art, like
Yeah.
just it's it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. So you just have to be like, there are people who have said yes to me.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people in my network. And honestly, I go back to my coach in New York.
Yeah.
I even Zoom coach with him, even though we can't, collaborate with him playing the piano and everything. It still works really well because he finds in me the positive and brings it out. It's like,
Yeah.
no matter what I do, he's always like, brava. I could belch and he would be like, brava. Yes,
he'd be like,
you're making
that
room.
sound.
That means that there's lots of air coming in. Yes, brava. You have to, like, the fact that I have a cheerleader like that has made all the difference in the world in not kind of snuffing out my confidence when other things try to.
Absolutely. I think I end up talking a lot about your singing team and making sure that you're finding the people on there that are actually supportive of you and what you feel like is your maybe your core sound or who you are as an artist, right? You don't have to only work with the first person that shows up or anything like that. Is making sure that you're finding that really positive collaborative relationship in which they're yes, of course they're holding you to a standard and they're encouraging you to like try new things and see if this is the expression that you want to achieve. However, if the relationship is like this constant, well, it could be so much better than this, but whatever. I hear so many stories about people that are in these mentor relationships or collaborative relationships in which they, where it's like bordering on just verbal abuse constantly. And I was like, are you feeling fulfilled by that?
Well, this is the thing. So, and I went through a lot of this in school too.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that's, I feel like, about like when I left grad school, I kind of had my voice together, but I was still like, I was really only singing with half of my voice.
Yeah.
I'd kind of been, I feel like I was taught mostly as a soprano, even though
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
a mezzo.
Yeah.
Just the technique that it to me felt like it was very like only one half of my voice.
Right.
And that was like one of the major conservatories in the country. So
yeah. Yeah. You're like, so
it's just one of those things like you learn and you grow and now that I'm like I guess like closer to 40 than 30, it's like I have all of these things that I can do now. I'm not a lot of it is also just like time and patience. Like yes, you've got to work on yourself, but I remember like beating my head and my voice basically against a wall in my 20s being like, why isn't it coming out the way that I feel like I want it to?
Right.
And a lot of it is just time and depending on the voice, like mine didn't start to feel like very reliable. Mm-hmm. And that also comes with a lot of work and figuring things out. But until like my early to mid 30s.
Yeah.
I'm just now in a place where I feel like I can go into an audition and I know how that first aria is going to go.
Yep. Exactly.
And I don't know how the rest of them are going to go though.
Yeah.
it's still very much in the moment.
Right.
But it is just so important to have somebody that's like that hears in you the potential of like, okay, here's what I'm presenting to you now. But I hear something in there that could unlock this, and there could be more dimension here. And to find somebody that really understands your sound, knows how to talk to you, and also still makes you like celebrate yourself in the room.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I just feel very, very lucky to have a relationship like that because I almost no matter what, I could be feeling like crap going into a coaching. And by the end of it, I'm like, yes, God, I sound awesome in that. I don't know what you just did to make me feel that way, but that worked.
Yes.
Like, brava.
I love this. I'm wondering, we've been talking a lot about teaching and being taught. And one of the questions that I love to ask is what's a skill that you like to teach? Usually we kind of talk about this from like a technique point, but you can talk about this from any direction, right? This can be hard skills or soft skills. What is something that you love to teach other people?
Ooh. Now, admittedly, I don't have a whole lot of teaching experience, but as far as like stuff that I like to talk about with younger singers when we're just kind of like spitballing over drinks or something, the thing that I feel like for the repertoire that I sing is very athletic, and a lot of it is like it just involves a lot of your body.
Yes.
I mean, all singing does, but I constantly feel like I am just like a sweaty athlete when I sing. Thankfully I don't feel it here, but
Right.
like that feeling of like that support feeling of your ribs constantly staying out.
Yep. Yep.
And never collapsing. The
Mm-hmm.
feeling of never collapse, that support feeling.
Yeah.
I feel like some people don't know exactly where that lives,
Yeah.
like down in the lower back ribs.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk
And
more about that? I mean, even I know that people are going to be listening to us. So if you were
Mhm.
just kind of like thinking about
Right.
talking more about where in your body you're feeling that, what is that like?
When I breathe in, I mean, all of these open passages in your head. I use a
Mhm.
snort. Use the snort. I use a hollow throat
Yeah.
to make sure that everything is open. But then I send all of that air and I open my low, like the very bottom ribs that you can feel all the
Hmm.
way up to like my shoulder blades.
Yeah. Yeah.
That almost my entire lower ribs, they expand, and all of those intercostal muscles in the ribs, they have to stay active. There is not a moment where they can go.
Yeah. Where they're just
I
collapsing.
don't.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, don't worry.
And even if you're taking a breath, you still have to. I mean, and you can give yourself a little bit of like a, if you need to just reset for a minute. But to me, in I'm preparing one of the Donizetti queens right now, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it is such athletic singing that I feel like the inside of my body is juggling when I'm doing it. But the
Yeah.
one thing that's going to get me through is to keep all of that snort space
Yeah.
and to keep those ribs um, supported by the intercostal muscles and out
Yeah.
and not collapsed for the entire number that I'm
Yeah.
singing.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
can still relax your breath, you can still breathe, you can still relax everything in your face and your jaw or whatever, but you cannot let those collapse.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that to me is what is saving me and helping me get through a lot of really difficult repertoire that I'm thrown. Some people would say that I'm a Zwischenfach mezzo
Hmm.
because I sing a lot of stuff that could also be sung by soprano.
Right.
But then I am also cast as like Olga in
Yeah.
Eugene or Magdalena. So it's like my seasons are usually like soprano and contralto.
Yeah.
Like, can a girl get a Carmen in there? Can I get a staff, please?
I'm sending you good vibes for that. Here's us putting it into the universe. I would like to see Hilary Ginther as Carmen. Yes, please. Like, let's do this.
I've done it once. Let's do it again. We need a
Yes.
repeat.
Yes, a repeat.
So to me, it's a lot about just like staying open. And a lot of if singers can't immediately feel that, what I tell them to do is get in a plank position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You cannot do a plank position without using those muscles.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can practice singing something in a plank position, you are supporting,
Yes.
because you're going to have to use those muscles in your back to keep you up, because you're going to have to let the muscles in your abdomen go.
Uh-huh. Right. Right.
So a lot of times if I am singing something that's really rangy or really hard and I need to warm my body up, I'll do a bunch of sun salutations and then I'll start singing stuff in plank position.
Yeah.
Even just singing the notes staccato
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to get the body working, but not wear out my vocal cords.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I love talking so much about is less about right here at the larynx, right? This like focus on
You're not
everything.
going to do
It's
anything
like,
here.
right.
That's not
And
where
we
you're
get,
controlling.
yeah, so much controlling that happens in like jaw, neck, etc. And then just like remembering to like move, right? That it's so much more embodied than that. So taking that focus that one
Mm-hmm.
might feel at the neck or larynx area and just starting to realize like let me actually put that focus somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else, let me put that on my core, like thinking about
Yeah.
intercostals across the back ribs, right? All of that, starting to really like release that focus from this one specific place into how is my whole body in this healthy balance, right? what is
Exactly.
what is working, what I, healthy tension is like that idea of things are balanced,
Mm-hmm.
what's supposed to be contracting and what's not supposed to be
Sure.
contracting.
So really, the muscles in your body, everything else that's not here in
Yeah.
your larynx, everything else is there to help you. Yes, use your muscles. Use your
Mm-hmm.
muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Use your upper back. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? sometimes when I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't know if I can get through this next page, but it is all in my passaggio and it's going to end on a B natural. I have no choice.
I have no choice.
But I'm like, okay, I got to just use my back. I got to use my back. And another thing, this is going to be a shout out to information that needs to be thrown in the garbage that you're given at conservatory. I remember being told so often that you like from your jaw, like you couldn't, like you only really should be singing from your upper jaw above, like really just let your jaw hang and like don't have any jaw tension. Like actually, what I found that helps me and in the real world and keeps me getting hired and keeps my voice healthy is that sometimes you have to use these muscles in your jaw to help. And why is because you're going to use the text. You're going to use your lips and your facial muscles and sometimes your jaw to help you with a vowel or something to get you through those things, because the musculature in your face and in your jaw can take the tension away from your throat if you need to really spit fire that text out. If you've got a rolled R on an F sharp and you need to be like you have to use your face and your back and maybe some things in the back of your neck, and you might have to feel things in your skull, but you're not going to feel it in your throat, or you shouldn't at least. But this idea of like everything has to be so relaxed, what in the world? Well, how are we going to make the sound then? No, you've got to use all of this athleticism in your body to help protect your voice. Put the hardship on your body, on your muscles, and all of that physical work that you can do when you're not singing through, weight training, working out, yoga, whatever. We are athletes, and the physical aspect of it has gotten me through. Last year I sang Adalgisa and Norma Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday matinee.
Woo, yeah.
And when I came off stage, my back and my legs were on fire. From using all of the muscles except for the ones in my throat to get me through. And it worked. And I was
what you're saying
that it wouldn't, but it
about
did.
your face and like that sense of like, of course I don't want your jaw like locking up or anything like that, but this idea of like being able to use the musculature of your face is also why we can understand the words that you sing, Hilary. So like,
well, if you YouTube all of these like beautiful golden age singers who are no longer with us, nobody's really singing like that much anymore, you see that they're using everything. And people are afraid to take their chest voice, above a D4 now. I'm like, I am using chest all the way up to a G sharp in my esparto, because if you listen to how it's supposed to sound like that. And you have to figure out how to use your body to help you do it without it sounding like a musical theater belt.
And also that kind of that healthy tension idea should be the fact that you can still be a creative, dramatic artist on stage, right? It's that I never want to push people like too far one way or the other, but the idea is like use your body and create the drama and the articulation so that we can hear that. It's not just like being so relaxed in this space, jaw, throat, whatever, that everything becomes like, just like lame. It's like, it's so like sad, right?
It's like amount of energy.
You
have to conduct the energy. You are the conductor of the energy.
Absolutely.
And the body has to conduct the airflow. The airflow is the energy. And as long as your air is flowing and your body is working, like that's the instrument. That's what you're doing.
Exactly.
You're playing the instrument.
I love that. Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit because, listen, we could talk about this all day long. And at some point we will. Like, I'll just be like, Hilary, let's nerd out together. And I wonder, part of what I want to talk about here is also, we talked about the instrument and some techniques that we want to talk about there. But then also a big part of this podcast is talking about what is a micro action that you feel like has helped you along in your career, and I always talk about this from that same perspective, they're like building blocks. It's not my example, my go-to example, anybody who listens knows that I always say this every time. A micro action is not write the grant, because there's like a million parts, right, involved in this.
Right.
It's about, oh, well, I did the budget for this, or I wrote the, the narrative, blah, blah, blah. So I give that because that's a very banal example. And so for you, I really want you to think about your career and a micro action that you feel like you've done consistently that has just helped you kind of move through this in a way that felt very positive and forward motion.
I would say that the thing that is within my control that I can do that will constantly, I can go to sleep at night saying, well, I did my part on that, so hopefully they rehire me. And I hope this isn't too broad of a thing, but it's just avoiding procrastination and preparing way ahead of time if you can.
Yes. Yeah.
Like for me, my nervousness lives in feeling like maybe I don't know it well enough, or my body hasn't figured out the coordination well enough yet.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna blank on a word or something. And I'm just, it's helped me so much to be almost over prepared.
Yeah.
Like I don't even need to look at the score when I go in for the first sing, even though it's right there.
Yeah.
Like those things I have been told have been noticed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how could they not?
Yeah. Oh, well, she's ready.
Yeah.
Is anybody else ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to me has been something that I can always rely on for myself.
Yeah.
Along with patience and support of other colleagues. Because it can be so easy in maybe a tense rehearsal situation where things aren't going smoothly to let your frustration maybe show your not cute side.
That's what I'm calling it from now on.
Not cute side. And if you can just like have patience and grace in the room, it's noticed. Yeah. Especially when people can feel the tension and really want an escape from that. You can almost just be an energy in the room that's calm.
Yes. Yes.
So I try to just be like a kind, calm energy in the rehearsal room and be amenable while keeping my boundaries and speaking up if I need to and being prepared.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are maybe mega aggressions.
Those are perfect.
Microaggression. Microaction.
Not
aggression. Microaction would be avoiding reflux.
Yes. Well, no, I think
choosing not tomatoes.
Choosing not tomatoes. Yeah. Listen, those nightshades, they'll get you. Like if you're not careful. I'm wondering, because I think that you're preparing ahead of time definitely falls into this, because it's about being honest about how much time that you want, so that you feel it's not about other people's thoughts about it. It's about your own feeling of confidence and whether or not you can be the musician you want to be in the room, right? It's about showing up to whatever, the first rehearsal, making sure that you get to Vondel, whatever, and feeling like, oh, I'm so like at ease here. I feel great. I can play off of other people if I wanted to. But Hilary, can you talk to me about maybe some of the ways that you figured out your preparation process? What are the things that you need so that you know that you're feeling that level of confidence before heading into first rehearsal?
I'm going to talk about specifically some roles that I've been blessed with recently, that my preparation process started really early for, because it was a really big challenge. And I started figuring this out through a couple of roles in a row. I had maybe 3 months to prepare Anne Boleyn in Saint-Saëns' Henry VIII. It's very rare. It's a rare opera. It's like 5 hours long. It's written in the grand opera style, so there's like ballet and all this stuff. but it's just gorgeous. Saint-Saëns plus like Tudor royalty. Hello, like sign me up.
Yes.
So I was really excited to sing this score. And there were a lot of things, like there were things that were being added back into the score that had been cut right after the premiere of it, that nobody, like they dug it out of the Paris Opera Library. Like there was a lot of research going in, and I am kind of like a Tudor history nerd anyway. And so I was like, oh my gosh, Anne Boleyn, she's my favorite Tudor queen. Oh, like what I have this opportunity. I just started reading books about her. I started just like watching documentaries, listening to podcasts, even watching like stupid shows that were not like historically accurate, just to give you like excitement to dive into the research, excitement to play that character. And it balanced with that. For me, it's about doing justice to the composer and what they intended. And I think a lot of times ego gets in the way, and it's like, how do I sound on this high note or whatever? To me, it's more about, do you understand the style? Do you understand what the composer intended here? Do you understand that going from this note to this note, the journey in one composer style to the other composer style is going to be completely different? You know, like the way you're going to sing it in Mozart's going to be completely different than the way you sing it in Donizetti. Even going from one note to the other, you know. So to me, it's a lot about doing justice to what the composer wanted and really understanding the style. Listening to any and every recording that's ever been put out, watching videos of people and how they sing it, watching what they do with their bodies. We have these resources on YouTube. We should use them. You know what I mean? And so it's, for me, it's holding myself to a standard of, I might not ever get to do this role again. It's rare. And it's because it's 2022 now, or whatever year it was, that was 2019, it's going to be recorded. And I want it to be as best as it can possibly be right now. I hold myself to that standard because I don't know if I'll ever get to do it again, and because things live on the internet.
Right.
And if it's within your control to start early and to really like dive in, and like if you can enjoy that process and not feel like, oh my God, I have to memorize this. No, this is, why would Anne Boleyn say this to Henry? Ooh, like, oh my gosh, like what's the meaning behind that? Oh, well, you like, for me, I'm like, oh, well, because of the history here with her and Catherine of Aragon. Like, I love that stuff, and it informs what I do. And that preparation process led me into my preparation process for Joan of Arc. So many things to research on that opera. It's never done. It's The Maid of Orleans by Tchaikovsky.
Oh my gosh, wow.
And that was the last role I did before the shutdown. It was February of 2020 with New Orleans Opera.
I was like, I just missed you, right? Being here in New Orleans.
I know, but given the honor of singing Joan of Arc, especially in New Orleans. Like,
right?
She's like the patron saint of New Orleans. It felt so special, and I felt so honored. And I was like, I've got to do the absolute best job at this that I can. And I saw the score, and I was like, oh, this is not just going to sing itself. This is going to be something that I have to figure out with several people. And I had a team, and I did this show in English. But because the composer did not write it in English, he wrote it in Russian. I worked with 2 Russian coaches and learned the whole thing in Russian, and then learned it in English.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And
that is not an easy show. That is not an easy saying. That is
it's one of those vision roles. Okay, the people that have sung it in the past, Zajic. And Mirena Freni sang it when she was 70 at Washington National Opera.
I had no idea. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And one of my Russian coaches coached her and Zajic through the role. So I was working with
talk about a team.
That know this role better than anybody on the, well,
that's
maybe
right.
Not but these are Russian women who they probably know it better than anybody on the planet. I don't know, you know, it was incredible. And the preparation process is what gave me my success. I remember showing up for day 1 of rehearsal, and there were people with much, much smaller roles, maybe like 5 or 6 lines, stumbling through their role because they hadn't prepared. And you're just like, and I remember one of like there was a very well-known person in the cast, and he told me, he was like, oh, well, was talking to this person yesterday and I said, well, the mezzo's prepared. And I was like, see, like that's
it.
That's within your control.
Yeah.
And if you have enough time, and I did have like a year to prepare for it.
Yeah.
But I took that year. I didn't say, oh, well, I probably only need like 3 months. I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
And just like put it on my Instagram and be proud of it and not really just dive in and do the work. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. That's
and
real.
So I love all of the research that goes into it. And now I'm singing Queen Elizabeth I, Anne Boleyn's daughter. Oh, Nerdville.
Yeah. You're
so
like, so here for it.
Yeah. And so I was just in New York working with my coach on this role. I'm leaving in like 3 weeks to go to Hong Kong to sing this role.
Yeah.
And at the Met Museum of Art, there was a Tudors exhibit.
Get out.
It was the Tudors, Art and Majesty in Renaissance England.
And you're like, hi, I have arrived. This is, you made this for me.
Yes. And I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm reading this. The Maria Stuarta is not based on historical facts, it's based on the Schiller play.
Yeah.
They didn't actually, the sisters didn't actually meet and have this confrontation.
No. You're like, but we get to imagine it in opera and it's amazing.
Yes, exactly. We want Mary Stuart to say, Bil Bastard.
Yes. We want that. We need it. We want it. We get it in opera.
So I'm reading the Schiller play, so I can kind of have a basis on like how Donizetti, like, you know, was like, okay, I'm gonna like pull all of this music and this drama from this play.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me to just do the research, and to me, it ends up affording me with a lot of information and a lot of tools to have in my belt when I go into the room.
Yep.
Like I know about Elizabeth that she was jealous of other women. I know about her that she never wanted to get married though, and she said, I will live my life like a man, like my father did, and basically just like go through as many men as I want and use my feminine wiles, but I'm never going to succumb to a man's power. I'm never going to marry because then I will be below him in station. I want to rule.
Right.
And so I love knowing these things so that it informs the way that I sing some of these lines.
Yeah.
It really does, knowing a lot of things about her.
Well, and Hilary, just as someone who is a like colleague in the field, that's exactly why, not to bring it back to this, but that's why it would be, such a dream to work with you, is because at every moment I know that you want to be there. You've done this work by giving yourself that preparation. It's a signal to yourself and to everyone else in the room that you're like, I want to be here. I am here for this, like in all sense of the
respect everybody's time.
Yes.
That you respect the piece, that you respect the opera company. It just, to me, it shows a sign of respect all around for yourself, for the music, for everyone's time. It's the way that it should be, because then everybody can reach a higher level of performance if you start here instead of starting here. Yes,
exactly. Well, I know that, the tutors are high on your list, but I'm wondering if there's anything else. You have some really cool things coming up that I want to make sure that you get a chance to talk about, but also this is a chance to kind of talk about dream roles and like dream rep. If there's anything in your life that you're like, I want to pull this in, I'm putting it out in the world. What is it?
Oh, yes. So, dream rep for me, roles that I have not, I'm lucky in that some dream roles of mine were Adalgisa, Carmen, things like that. And I actually got to do those.
Yes.
So I've gotten to do some of my dream roles, and that's awesome. But ones that I haven't gotten to do, I was contracted to sing my first Santuzza. And got canceled for COVID.
Oh no.
So I've not gotten to sing that role yet, but I was getting ready to leave in 3 days. So I had done all of my preparation and my coachings and everything.
Oh, so now we definitely need to bring it back into your life. You're ready.
Yeah. I got to sing the big Inneggiamo scene with chorus at Opera Omaha for a concert, because I was like, can I do any part of this role, please?
Yes.
So Santuzza is one of them.
Yes.
Eboli and Don Carlos is one of them.
Oh my gosh.
That aria is such a beast, but I have been working on it for years.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like ready in the next couple of years for like the whole role.
Yes.
And then ultimately I would really, really love to get into singing Wagner.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that about you.
I love the music so much.
Yeah.
And I really do love singing in German. It's
Hmm.
part of my heritage.
Hmm.
And to me, the German roles that mezzos kind of get boxed into are the Strauss
Right, right.
roles, which are very, very high tessitura, which like is I'm no stranger to that.
Yeah.
Um, but Wagner really knew how to write for a mezzo.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like then there are a plethora of great Wagner roles for mezzo, and I would think that Fricka in Valkyria is
Yes.
probably a dream role of mine. I I like to talk about this story because I think it's a story of not uh, of not winning that really has helped me. I I got an audition in 2018 for Paris Opera's Valkyrie, and they were like,
Wow.
we need one of the Valkyries. I flew over to Paris and sang on the stage of the Bastille, and I sang all of Rosweiss's
Yeah.
role.
Yeah.
But they also wanted to hear another German, and so of course, because there's like not a whole lot of German accessible rep out there, I
Yeah.
sang the composer's aria,
Yeah.
and I ended up jumping a couple of beats in one of the piano interludes,
Yeah.
and the pianist didn't really help like cover the mistake for me, and it was pretty obvious that I had made a mistake, and I made up for it by holding another note longer and like getting back together. But like 2 hours later my manager emailed me and he was like, the casting director wanted to hire you, but the conductor was a no-go, so it's not happening.
Oh no. Oh, that.
So it's one of those things that would have been a dream of mine
Yeah.
that was really close and slipped out of my fingers through maybe a fault of my own, maybe not. I don't know if they cared about that one thing or if it just wasn't,
Right.
if they had somebody else in mind. I will never
Right.
know.
Yeah. You'll never
um
know. And that's
and
okay. Like
and
that's the
another thing
thing.
is,
Yeah.
pretty sure that production got striked against anyway and never happened.
So you're just saying that that production was just cursed from the start. And
Well, I mean, well, Paris Opera, they strike there all the time and
I
things just
know.
like don't happen. So, but that it's one of those things where it's like I still feel like one day it's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
I hope so. But in the meantime, I'm the whole season, my whole season this year, pardon me, is Italian repertoire.
Yeah.
For a few years, right when I was coming out of young artist programs and entering into being a main stage professional artist, I was only getting gigs of like new American operas that were not well written, that
Mm-hmm.
were murder on the voice, that were for a very small paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
that never got legs and were never done again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really serving me except for like getting my foot in the door a little bit and helping
Right.
me out a little bit. And then eventually, I don't know if it was because I changed management or whatever, but I started getting hired in the more classical European repertoire, which is really what I wanted to do anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this season is like getting like I just did that concert in Omaha where I did some Santuzza and some Eboli. I sang her aria in that concert too. Getting ready to do Elisabetta and Maria Stuarda, bel canto, yes, all day. I love it.
Yes.
And I'm then going back to Omaha. That's another thing that I like to talk about is there are some companies that just like if they like you, they will rehire you. It's like my
Yeah.
fourth time going back to Omaha in 2 years.
Yay.
And
You know,
they're like,
I have
listen,
a
like
soft
it's
spot
not
for
a
that company
it's
too.
okay. Yeah. They and it's not even like I'm singing the Mistress of the Novices in Sor
Yeah.
Angelica. It's like
Yeah.
5 lines, but
Yeah.
because they value me as an artist and there was an open role, they're like, we'd love to have you back. We know you could contribute to this opera, and and they pay you what you're worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's because they had hired me for Olga and Eugene Onegin as a rehire. They're like, hey, like we're even though it's not a bigger role, this is what we have for you this season when we want you back, and we're going to pay you what
Yeah.
you're worth.
Right.
And
I love
that
that.
is part of gaining a reputation and gaining, say, hey, if you're going to bring Hilary, you have to not pay her a young artist fee, even though it's a small role.
Yeah.
That's what you have to like if you want that artist.
Yes. Yes.
And then I get to go to Opera Columbus and do Maddalena and Rigoletto,
Amazing. Yes.
and then finishing out the season in the summer here in Central City doing Rossini's Otello.
I love it. Oh, what a great season. Doesn't it feel
Yeah.
so good? Yeah.
Well, it's also, and I for there are a lot of people that you see just kind of like skyrocket to the top, and it's hard to not just feel defeated when it doesn't happen for you that way.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's been a very consistent kind of slow climb, and I think that's kind of like it's more the path for most people.
Yes.
Than, we see a lot of the 2% happening.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, you're always going to see the thing that has that kind of like, I guess the rocket flare behind it, right?
Exactly.
But that doesn't, and also if you just look around, you see lots of people that are also consistently working, like, and
Yeah. And
and
this is
like,
my
yeah,
first season as a singer that is completely full. I'm
yeah,
37, and
yeah,
it's my first time that I've had a full season where I can say, I I don't know. I mean, I might have to like maybe do a little like part-time thing here or there and like a couple of months that I have free, but
yeah,
I feel really, really, I feel like a lot of the hard work is paying off.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. I love
So
that. I'm so
hopefully,
excited for you.
oh, thank you. And it's about momentum too, because I had a lot of momentum going into the pandemic, and I just done the Joan of Arc, and then it was just like
Yeah.
stop, like
Oh,
hard stop. And so a lot of us who were kind of like up and coming felt that momentum just die, and to have to re-rev that engine
yeah, yeah,
post pandemic, like I had to, take a couple of gigs that maybe didn't pay as much as I wanted, but it was something and I wanted to sing, like, and then it just slowly starts getting better and better and better.
yeah.
And I mean, it's not easy, but
Oh, yeah.
I feel really, really lucky that the hard work and the concentration and the focus and my dedication and love for it have are kind of like coming back to me now.
Oh, that's such a beautiful way to put it. And I'm so thrilled for you. And also it really is your dedication and the hard work that you've put in that cannot be overstated enough, just to say like that you clearly are doing all of the work and it is paying off. Like it really is. You have that kind of career, Hilary, and that's amazing, right? So
And it's a lot of times it's just paying attention to the details of the text or the style, like I'm
yeah.
saying, because those things, when you're in an audition room, will separate you from being seen as not quite ready or still have something to learn or still young artist level,
Mm-hmm.
but lots of potential,
Yeah.
to that's a professional who understands the style, and I want her to tell this story.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. Oh, I'm gonna get that printed. Right. So, like, Hillary, may I ask you? I know because so many of my listeners are super curious about management, and I would just kind of love to hear from your perspective. I always want to kind of caution them that like management is not this like magic wand situation, but I'm
No.
hoping that you could maybe
Excuse me.
that's great. That demystify a little bit sometimes for, I'm sure you get this from working with lots of, young artists or emerging artists. And so maybe just a little bit of information before we kind of go on to the next thing.
Sure. I can just speak to my path with management.
Mm-hmm.
I had finished a young artist program at Florida Grand Opera when I was 30,
Mm-hmm.
um, and had been told by the company, like, you don't need to do this young artist stuff anymore. Like, you're ready to go. Um, so I just reaching out to managers. But I also had recommendations from people saying, hey, if you reach out to this manager, tell them that I told you to reach out to them. So I used my network that I had through all of the young artist years and keeping in touch with people, to help me gain some credibility with these managers, so they knew I wasn't, they knew that I had some other people backing me saying like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, she's ready to be heard by management.
Yeah.
And I sang for a lot of managers who didn't want me on their roster, and eventually sang for one who did. And we were both kind of learning at the same time. He was younger than I am,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was like a very much like both of us young, kind of figuring thing out situation. But also my current coach was on that management team,
Yeah.
and he's the one that recommended me to them because I had been working with him a little bit just as a coach, and he was like, hey, I started managing,
Yeah.
do you want to maybe consider being on this roster?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, everybody else said no, and if this roster is going to say yes, it is the
Yeah.
way to get your foot in the door for main stage auditions.
Yep.
There is a gate there.
Mm-hmm.
But it can take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of rosters are completely full and at their bandwidth. Mm-hmm. And not getting one right away when you feel like you're ready, or when other people say you're ready, is not, it can feel personal. It can feel like I'm not good enough yet, but a lot of times it's just like the luck and the stars have not aligned yet for that right relationship. And so, you know, this manager, my first manager, got me into a lot of auditions. I did tons and tons of auditions for companies. And he got my foot in the door at a lot of places. And eventually I was like, he's a domestic manager, only United States. And mm-hmm. I really kind of want to have the opportunity to branch out internationally.
Yeah.
And so eventually I was singing Loreen in Brokeback Mountain at New York City Opera in 2018. And my current management team was there seeing another one of their artists was singing Ennis. And they approached me afterwards and were like, that was really great. Yeah. Tell us more about yourself. Tell us about the other repertoire you like to sing. Because that was like weird 12-tone American opera. So like, what other kind of like standard, you know, European classical repertoire do you sing? And so we talked a little bit. And then the next day they emailed me and asked like if I wanted to sing a formal audition for them, like, you know, Italian rep, French rep, whatever. And then we could talk, and eventually they offered me a spot on the roster. And I don't want to say that it's a mixture of the right auditions, mm-hmm. being like, I got a lot of really great auditions because they have connections.
Yep.
But it's equally about maintaining your network. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of times once you get management, it feels like everything is taken out of your hands. Like, okay, now we're the ones that are going to submit you for everything. But it's important for the artist to still feel very proactive and communicative with a manager about like, hey, are we still on the same page as far as like my trajectory, what we hear in my voice, where I'm going? Like, are you putting me up for the right repertoire? So that becomes a tricky balance of like, do they see you as you see you? Do they believe in you as you believe in you? And so that's, you know, it's a constant balance. And sometimes eventually you don't see each other the same way, and you have to find a new relationship. And it's just, it's a necessary evil at some point in the business, to gain access to auditions, to just be seen as like, oh, this is a legitimate artist. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, unless you have like won the Met competition and everybody's asking to hire you anyway.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get consistent work without management.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
that.
But
it's also, you have to know that you're ready for it. Mm-hmm. And really have a strong sense of who you are as an artist and what repertoire you really see yourself in.
Yes, absolutely. That's so important. So, Hilary, as we kind of wrap things up together here, you know that I truly believe that curiosity is a superpower. And I just think that one of the best things that we can do is be curious about things, like, you know, like the tutors and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if what you're deeply curious about right now.
Ooh, this is a good one. I'm curious, what is the motivation for opera singers today? What are people who aren't me? Because sometimes I feel like I'm on an island alone. Maybe, and a lot of times it's because I just put my blinders on and I don't want to like pay attention and get myself out of my focus. Mm-hmm. But I really do feel like I found my happiness in it because I do it because I love it so much, and because I want to find out more about the art form and the history of it and who sang it and why they sang it. And it just feels good to sing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to know like what young singers are inspired by. Why are they singing opera?
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I just kind of fell into it because I started singing in church as a kid, and it was like I had a vibrato at 11.
Yeah.
What's happening? It was just like, here I am. I'm an opera
Yes.
singer.
Yes.
And so it was like very obvious to me what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, I'm curious about other people's paths, or like why did they choose opera? Because it's such a niche thing. Do you know what I mean?
Totally is.
And I'm curious how other people deal with the athleticism of singing and how they deal with nerves and confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because so often nerves can just take your breath away.
Mm-hmm.
They can take that deep breath away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That like that mixture of adrenaline and cortisol in your body, and whether or not it's like it's depleting you, or if you're able to kind of channel that and use that to
Mm-hmm.
like stay
Yeah.
present, stay like what we were talking about with support, stay supported, all
Yeah.
of that
And I
stuff.
also want to destigmatize, and I don't know if this is a stigma or not, but here's me just saying it. I want to just say out loud that I have, along with a lot of other things, preparation and whatnot, I I have taken a beta blocker for nerves for
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and it absolutely 100% helps and is completely safe.
Yeah. That's
Even
great.
just like 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams of, I take propanolol
Mm-hmm.
before I have to do a really big audition or a really big performance. It just, because the thing that makes you shake and keeps your breath high is the fact that your heart starts beating so fast. It can
Yeah.
just slow your heart a little bit and let you breathe deeper.
Right. Well, and keeps you in your body, staying. You found the way that you've been able to kind of like override some of that stuff that gets in the way. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what we're all
Yeah.
doing is
And across
what's
the
the
board.
thing that's getting in the way, and what do I need to give myself? What do I need to bring into my life that's going to help me work through that, right? Whatever it
Exactly.
is. And I think that's so important. Also, what you were saying about boundaries, same thing. Is like whatever you notice getting in the way of what you're trying to achieve, what's the
Yeah.
thing that you can give yourself that's going to help you either just sail right over that or remove it from your life? And
Exactly.
it looks like a lot of things. It looks different for every single person. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so with you. It's what is this thing? And being honest about anything that is actually getting in your way. Sometimes I see that a lot too, is like
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to be honest about what might be our stumbling block. And so being able to just look at it and be like, okay, that's in the way. What am I going to do? Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. And for me, it's just like, well, do the work.
Do the work.
Just do
Yeah.
the work. Do your homework. Just do your homework.
It's like nothing makes you feel as confident as building the skill. Like,
Yeah.
just knowing it. I used to tell my students, I worked a lot with like high school students, and I would always tell them the two keys to building confidence are to build the skill and then to recognize that you have the skill. And I think that like what you're talking about with preparation, doing the work, is building the skill and then recognizing you've done it enough that you're able to also recognize that it's there. If you don't
Yes.
recognize that you have
That's
the
confidence
skill,
right there. That is that's a form of confidence, being like, I recognize that I've done the work, and there's no what ifs right now.
exactly, exactly. So you can just walk in, be that bright shining light, and
Yes.
in rehearsal or wherever you're going to be.
Yeah.
So Hilary, where can people find you on the interwebs? Where do you want people to interact with you?
Well, my website is www.hilaryginther.com.
Will
It's
you
spelled with
spell it?
one L,
Yeah.
HILARYGINTHER.
Yes.
And my Instagram is Hilary Ginther Mezzo.
Mm-hmm.
And my Facebook is Hilary Ginther Mezzo Soprano.
Yes. I believe you
So
have a TikTok. Is that?
I do. I'm not super active on TikTok, and my
That's okay.
TikTok is a conglomeration of like, I'm also a visual artist. I do
Yes.
portrait art. And
Yes.
so it's a
I was like, you have
conglomeration
to
of
talk
like,
about that for a second.
it's a conglomeration of like opera stuff, art, silly lifestyle. It's just like my whole life.
Yes.
My TikTok is Lady Ginther.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Hilary,
As a
thank
wedding
you.
gift,
Yes.
one of our friends got us like one of those like Lord and Lady titles, or they buy you like a square yard of land in Scotland or something, and all of a sudden you're a lady. So I was like, well, it's true.
What a great gift, too. I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you so much. Like, this has been such a pleasure to talk to you, to learn from you. Thank you for like sharing openly and honestly about your whole life. That means a ton to me. So, Hilary, thank you so much for your masterclass on studio class today. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And thank you for having me, Megan. It's so nice to talk with you.
No, thank you. And I always say, as we wrap this up, to all of our lovely listeners to stay sparkly inside and out. Until
Oh,
next
heck yeah.
time.